everybody. This is Peter Reynolds with a quick preface to this episode of The Vocal Booth. We had some serious audio quality issues this time around. Not only was Skype being very ornery, with the quality degrading and occasionally dropping out, but the software I was using to record the session, the quality just wasn't where I expected it to be given the high bitrate I set. It kind of drops off the high end for some reason. I did edit it and passed it through Isotope Nectar 2, so it brought it up a little bit. It's not terrible, but going forward, given these problems we had, and even the original interview with David Morantz was not the best at times, we're moving to a different platform called Discord, which should be much more reliable and provide a much higher quality audio. Even with these problems, the interview with RC Bray was great. He's quite the character, and I think you're going to enjoy it. Hello, and welcome to episode 2 of The Vocal Booth, a series of interviews with voice actors and audiobook narrators with a special emphasis on audiobook narration. And joining me is my fellow aspiring voice actor and narrator, Mike Hall.
Hey, how you doing?
Today we are pleased to have with us Robert Bray, more commonly known as RC Bray. He has over 180 audiobooks to his name, including The Martian, the book that was turned into the blockbuster movie last year starring Matt Damon, for which he took home an audio award for science fiction, the highest award in the audiobook industry. Bob, welcome and thanks so much for joining us today.
Oh, it's my pleasure. Thank you for asking me.
So to start, let's go back to your early days. I see you did kind of start in the same way most narrators seem to, and you had an interest in acting from early on.
You're breaking up a little bit there.
I was afraid of that.
Yeah. Let me give you a quick one. He was asking about your early interest in your acting and the plays you maybe did in school and how you got into it.
Yeah. a girl.
Great answer.
Yeah, that's true. I was a freshman and she was a sophomore. Was that right? Yeah. No, she was a junior and friends and all that. And then 42nd Street was going to be the show. She said, "Oh my God, you should do it." Okay, I'll do it, whatever, as long as you're doing it. But yeah, I auditioned, and from there on, I just, started acting, got kind of the acting bug, and then came time to graduate high school. I didn't know what I wanted to do, which was only after I wanted to be an architect, but I started doing miserably at math. So that wasn't going to work, but people said, "You should act." I said, "Okay." So then I just kind of followed their suggestion and went and did that, and then there's the other stuff that happened in between. But yeah, now I'm a narrator, and thanks for having me.
You're more than welcome. Now you started out, though, it looks like doing car commercials of all things.
Oh yeah. That happened because I went to college to study to be an actor, and of course I became a great waiter, and I realized at one point, I said, I this is great and everything, but I can't actually, I wasn't a waiter, but I worked at a deli. And I said, I can't do this forever. I'm just not going to be able to survive doing this. So I better figure something out. And that's when I thought of the Connecticut School of Broadcasting. So I went there for, a year or whatever it is. I don't remember. I think it was like a year. And they had this, there was one of the teachers there. She did voiceovers at a company, and she said, you should really come over and read for us, because I had done acting for so long. When it came time to do the voiceover segment of the curriculum, I looked like a genius. Everyone else was there kind of like to do things in the background or be like a sports announcer, you know what I mean? Background kind of things. And I was there for that too, because I figured that's where some stability was. But I knew how to read, so I did that, and it kind of worked out well. She said, "Come over to this place." I thought they were looking for voiceover guys. They weren't. They were looking for production guys. So I basically learned how to do it on the spot. It was Pro Tools. And I basically learned there. Have you ever used this before? Oh, yeah, a little bit. Sure, yeah. And then, so I was there for 10 years, so I guess I figured it out well enough. But there was the way I got started, actually got into it, actually was, involved in the voicing of a commercial. There was a guy who did a spot, but they needed him to make a revision of a price, car commercials. That's what this guy did. His name was Mark Caplow. He was like the voice of HBO in the 90s. And he did that iconic Butterfinger commercial with the Simpsons, the crispity, crunchy peanut. That's him.
Yep.
And so he wanted to make car spots. He was like, I don't want to go to New York anymore. I want to stay home. He just had a kid, wanted to work out of his basement. I was shocked that you could make a living making car commercials of all things. And I was very happy that I got involved. And the way that I started making a living was that guy couldn't make the revision to a price on a car because he was the evening drive guy. And but all my life I've done impressions. Like Eddie Murphy was a big part of that. I listened to him when I was 6 or 7 years old, and we would drive along, on family trips, and I'd have his, cassette in my Walkman. I'm sitting there listening and chuckling, and my parents have no idea I'm listening to Eddie Murphy. But I was just so shocked that he could do impressions of people. I was like, oh, how does he do that? Elvis and Ralph Cramden and Michael Jackson. And so I said, all right, I'm gonna start impersonating Eddie Murphy, impersonating these people. So I had that going for me, that I had been doing impersonations for 20 years by that point. And so this guy had a very interesting one that I could, emulate, and I filled in the price point. And then as time went on, he was becoming less and less available. So I just started doing the whole thing. Because I was the head producer at that point, I cast myself a lot because I was there.
Convenient. Nice.
So so that's how I just started getting into it. So, by the way, I'm sorry if I can be very long-winded.
That's
quite all right.
fine. It gives him plenty of stuff to edit.
Yeah. No, I was reading your bio there, and it looks like one of your early influences was Frank Mueller. And for those who are listening who don't know who that is, Frank Mueller, Mueller, was a very prolific audiobook narrator too, who had a really bad motorcycle accident back in 2001, I think, or 2002, and he died, I guess, in 2008 due to complications from that. But he was very distinctive voice, and he did a lot of work with Stephen King, and he was one of my favorite narrators. I was really sad to hear that when he was in that accident. But you, I guess, started out listening to him, and that was one of your big influences.
Yeah, Mark Apple, the guy who ran the company, always wanted to make his business bigger. So he would send me home. I had like a 40-minute commute to and from, and he would send me home with these audiobook business. And I didn't want to do it because I thought audiobooks were just dumb. So so he'd send me home, and he would remind me each time he wanted me to listen to one of these that he wrote my check. So I said, okay. So but I listened to it. I listened to Jack, the guy who was the CEO of GE. And if you ever heard that guy talk, he's got this crazy, grumbly voice. I'm like, oh my God, if I could listen to 10, 12 hours of that, maybe I'd do a story. So I went with something I knew, Stephen King. And I said, well, what's this Dark Tower thing all about? And I picked up the first one because, and mainly a lot of the reason I picked that was because it was so small.
Yeah,
surprise.
And I was like, if I can get through this, that's a good test. 6 hours, that's cool. That's like a week, in the car or whatever. That's fine. But I loved it. And it was George Guidall who did that.
Yep.
I was like, this guy's neat. I just like him. But then Frank did the second one, and that's when I realized, like, oh my God, you can do this stuff with a book. I thought you just go in and you read. Now, George wasn't doing that. He wasn't just reading. He was doing the stuff too. But Frank, reached me for whatever reason. Probably because he did a lot more, I don't want to say juicy characters, but I was like, that's what I do. And, but it wasn't just that. It was, I just remember listening to him, and I was like, this guy is so smooth. Wow.
Yeah.
And it's like, I like this guy. And then from then on, I just listened to more and more and more. And I was like, I love this guy. I friggin' love him. And he's the reason that I started doing it. So
yeah, I can definitely imagine the effect that would have on you, especially when the characters are so well done that you get involved with them like that.
It's funny because I remember not liking Frank at first because I come from listening George, and actually I'd listened to it. I think there was something else I'd listened that he had done. Like, you get really used to someone's voice, and then you got into Frank, and it's like, oh, this guy, I don't know. But then after a while, it was like, oh, he's really good.
Yeah. But for me, seriously, I was just making fun of him at first because he was doing Roland, and he was doing this voice, and he said, like, I don't know, in a very special way. They're like, Roland, what's this? He goes, I don't know. I was like,
yeah. I know exactly
I just started making fun of it. I started making fun of it, and then I'm like, well, isn't what is it? Impersonation is the biggest form of flattery or whatever. So
Yep.
it's like, wow, I guess I'm flattering this guy. I like this guy, I guess. Yes, I do. So yeah, anyone from then on, I've compared to. I always go back to. So I don't get to listen as much as I used to anymore because I work right from home in my booth, so I'm not in the car a lot. But when I do, if I haven't listened to someone else read, and which is weird because I know a lot of these people now, so it's easier for me to get like I was listening to The Education of Little Tree, and Johnny Heller was reading it. And I love Johnny. First of all, he's hysterical. So reading this book, which was a little more straightforward and serious, was funny. So sometimes I would just get tired of hearing him be so serious that I just turn it off. Shut up, Johnny. Just shut up. But so it's like not that it takes me out of the story that I know the people, but it kind of is. It's like I'm listening to this guy just ramble on. I don't listen to him anymore. But if I was getting too far out there, I would always go back to a book by Frank, and it's weird how every time I hear him start talking, it is. So yeah, it's like it's a nice feeling. It really is. It's like not a weight off the back, but kind of like a there you go, get comfortable kind of voice. And it's yeah. I'm like I just said, I know a lot of these people now, and what really is sad is that I probably would have met him and known him. Yeah. So but then again, I don't know. But
you never know. You said you worked from home.
Yeah.
While doing that, you worked through ACX, or you have worked through ACX, or maybe you still do. And everything you've said about them is that they're really great, and everything that they've done for you has been very pleasant. But what was your big break with them?
Just the fact that I got a book, and by like a great author, Jeremy Robinson. He's done tons of books, and I did a read for him for a book called River Watch, and he wrote back and he said, "Yeah, great, let's do it."
That's simple.
Like, oh my God, I just kind of got in on there I am. I'm a narrator. But I think one of the big things, Blackstone, they kind of went around and were listening to people, I guess, on there, and then contacting them directly and said, "Hey, we're a production house. We do stuff. Would you like, you'd like to work with us sometimes?" I said, "Sure." And they started giving me some really good books. I mean, I loved them. Things I never would have picked up, if they didn't give them to me. But it was because of one of the books I did for them, Harbor Nocturne by Joseph Wambaugh, that Grover Gardner, narrator and big guy over at Blackstone, he had heard it and said, "Hey, no, I know that book. Yeah, no, you're really good. I want to talk to you." And then he offered me a job, and then just the fact that I had Blackstone on my resume and was able to say, yeah, Grover said this, and it just kind of took off from there. So I kind of put those two together. The fact that I got my first job through ACX, and it was a royalty share, and I still see royalties from it.
That's awesome.
That was like 5 years ago, I think. And Grover, having heard Harbor Nocturne, which is a Highbridge title that B produced. So yeah,
it's always awesome when you find out, when you figure that as good as you can be, if you don't have the connections, it can sometimes set you back.
Well, yeah, but that's the thing about this. I have never, not that I've been in like every industry or whatever, but and it sounds like so unicorns and rainbows to say that this is the nicest industry in the world, but everybody is. I mean, I have yet to run into a-hole. Forgive me. I have yet to run into anyone even approaching that. It's just everyone is so nice. Even the one like if I'm Joe. There's a guy, Jeffrey Kafer, he another narrator, a pal of mine. When I got that Jeremy Robinson thing, he was like, "Hey, who's this RC Bray guy?" Because Jeff had been doing all of Jeremy stuff, and now I'm doing it. We finally met. Now he and I have this, the book would be better if I narrated it kind of thing, and if we just have this, constant rivalry. It's hysterical. And but if I'm not available for a book, I said, give Jeff a call. You know what I mean? It's like, why am I gonna? Or if he gets something that I want, it's like, that's so and so. But what are you gonna do? I'm happy for the guy, And yeah, everyone's just so nice.
Can you say that with just a little bit more of a lisp, just a little bit?
A little bit more. That's just so nice.
It went so nice.
Oh, that was good.
Thank you. I've been working on that. Go ahead.
Now, speaking of ACX, now it sounds like you started out, like you said, you got the royalties. Now, did you start out doing your own editing? But it sounds like you jumped into a big production house pretty quickly.
Oh, you mean like with Blackstone?
Yeah.
Or yeah, no, well, yeah, ACX. Yeah, I got the book right away, but my start wasn't good at all. If I tell about it, I did a talk for ACX University that kind of goes through the whole thing about how now look, I came from an editing background of car commercials. We've established that. So I had music, sound effects, everything that could cover up mistakes in the voice track that you could imagine. So now I'm just doing straight voice, and this is great. This is wonderful. And I send it in. First of all, it's not up to their standards, like their requirements, audio requirements. And it's probably not up to their standards either. Like, what is this crap? What are you doing? And eventually the first maybe 2 Orth titles I did, they had to have their team really just go through and edit and mix and master and fix up my mistakes and all of it. So I learned a lot though from them. They helped me out a great deal along the way, which is why a big part of the reason that I'm so vocal about how much I love them. I mean, it's a brilliant idea, number one, for any narrator who wants to hook up with an author and vice versa and make an audiobook of their work. It's a great platform. What the hell was I saying?
It was a great platform.
Great platform. Where was I going? Oh yeah, but when I started doing it with B and they were producing, the high bridge titles, I just had to read, which was nice. I didn't have to worry about anything else, but I would do, minor editing along the way. I wouldn't send out a track that, was just all mistakes and everything. I just kept the parts that were in the book, the pacing. I put all that together. Then I sent it off to them for them to mix and master and have all the fun. And I had done that enough with them that when I hooked up with Blackstone, they just said, just send us, a sample of your studio. And I did, and they were like, yeah, sounds great. And I don't know if it was them or somebody else that was like, yeah, it's actually one of the better quality booths that we've heard. So that's like, all right, I am never changing a thing in this room, and I haven't. So but it was
give me some shellac. I got to make this stay.
Yeah. So I just, it was a learning process along the way. So I just, kind of had to figure everything out. I got down on my process, and then everything was just this. I didn't have to do much once I was just narrating. But when I was originally doing the ACX stuff, and I still do stuff for AC, own blah blah. But now hopefully I know what I'm doing now. So
hold on there. We lost most of what you just said there.
Oh, good. Well, it wasn't important.
Please tell me.
No, now I'm losing you too, Mike.
You actually have an entire. We'll just go on.
Yeah. But go ahead, Mike. What were you gonna say?
I actually said, just tell me you have one big folder of outtakes someplace.
Big folder of outtakes?
Me?
Yeah, you.
Oh yeah, no, I do. I'm sorry about this. Yes, I do. If you go on SoundCloud and you look me up, there's like I put together they're like minute segments of outtakes for I don't know, probably about 15 books. So yeah, you can look, you'll hear me, and they're censored. Like I've thrown whatever fun sounds in there, just I don't know, just in case
somebody gets upset.
Number one, like younger people, because everyone loves outtakes and bloopers and stuff. So I wanted to kind of, even if people were, younger people were listening to it and they wanted to listen to it loud and mom's in the other room. I don't know. I just kind of wanted to make that clean.
Yeah.
But at the same time, it's the constant use of the beep and the censor that almost adds some humor to it.
Exactly. So yeah, we actually had that because I did a video game, the Wasteland 2 recently, and I had some outtakes from that one. And actually, Peter did that too. You did Wasteland, right?
Yeah, I got a couple different roles in Wasteland.
Yep, I got 2. And we took some of those, and there's a studio that we both work with, and we did a bunch of conventions across Europe and this side of the pond, and people loved that. That was like especially the beeps, but they got such a kick out of those, and you don't even need to have the context, just to hear. Well, yeah, I don't know why they like it so much. Anyways, where do we?
I do.
Oh yeah, that's true.
Is there any particular genre that you like to narrate, or do you just kind of whatever comes your way?
Whatever comes my way that I like to do.
Yeah, anything specific.
Yes, or anything you'd like specifically,
like sci-fi or noir,
like
what have you.
No, I like what I call horror with a heart. And the best way to do it, like Suffer the Children, is one that I did by Craig Louis, nominated for an Audie, by the way.
Nice.
Yeah, and I friggin' loved it. Horror with a heart to me is like a horror story that you're like crying during, and you're like, this is a horror story, for God's sake. Like,
so it's emotional horror. Yeah,
yeah. Emotional noir? Have you seen Pan's Labyrinth?
Yes.
Oh yeah.
It's exactly like that. It's a friggin' beautiful. It's terrifying, but it's this beautiful story, and it's like, oh my God. And there's another one called The Orphanage. It's I think Guillermo del Toro produced that.
I've seen that one.
Oh my God, it's like heart wrenching, and it's just terrifying horror movie. But those things they grab me the most for whatever reason. And Suffer the Children was one of them. I did it for Tantor, and I was just saying to them, please, for the love of God, please listen to this, submit it everywhere, get reviews, get this, get that. I just really want this out there because I just loved it.
I'll have to look that up.
And it's very fun. It's basically there's one day all the kids die.
Nice.
See, right away it's a tear.
No.
It's pretty funny, but but they all basically they come back to life, and the only thing that they can, I don't want to ruin it, but essentially, how far would you go as a parent to keep your kid that came back to life alive?
Oh, and I know that. I remember. Yes, I remember reading about this. Yes.
Yeah. So my wife and I, we had 2 girls. We just had a boy back in August. So my wife would come up to the door to my booth and just knock on it, and to ask a question. I'm home. And she came in one time. I was like, "Get the hell out! Don't you see I'm recording? This door here." It's like she's like, "I am never going to knock on this door again." And I'd be like, "Sorry, it was that horror book I was reading."
I've definitely had those too.
Yeah. So check out Suffer the Children. It's one of my favorites. And actually, I did one called Midnight Picnic that I'm happy that produced myself under my audio publishing name, Blue Heron Audio. It's going to be big, babe.
Oh, wow.
And it was written by Nick Antosca. You may have heard his name a lot lately. He was one of the writers on Hannibal, the TV show.
Yep. Oh, yeah.
And he co-wrote the movie that just came out beginning of January called The Forest, where it's in Japan.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, he's beautifully mined, and it's the images that he can create with his words are just, they're graphic and so visceral. They're really beautiful. Even they're a little bit, terrifying. So that's another one that I did that I just love it, and I'm doing a couple more of his books because they're the kind of genre. So I like doing those, but I love thrillers. I say I usually get cast as the. And so one time I said it perfectly, kind of like the down and out divorced private investigator getting over his, being an alcoholic and has a cat. That's who I'm usually cast as because I have this, low kind of stuff. So that's kind of what you see. And I don't mind doing it because there's some of the greatest stories that are those types of books. So I get cast for those a lot. And I love thrillers, and I love those kind of, whodunits. Sci-fi is hard sometimes. I've done a couple that I've just I don't know how I'm doing these. But there are other ones that I love. Fear the Sky, that whole Fear series is one of them. And the other one, obviously, being The Martian. Some things come at me and I'm like, I don't know that I want to do it, but at the same time, I don't want to not do it just because it may not be right for me.
Right. I mean, the Fear Saga was actually how I tracked you down, because I was like, where the books were showing up on Audible, but they said they've been delayed or something. I go, what's going on here? And then I went to Reddit, and you were on Reddit saying this is why things are delayed.
Yeah. So they're out now.
Yes, I know. Yep.
Thank God. Yeah, the second one's out. The third one's out next week. It was just like a whole bunch of behind the scenes stuff that the podium wasn't allowed to talk about. So, I was even getting frustrated with them. Like, guys, what's going on? I'm getting bombarded. Stephen Moss is getting bombarded. What? Tell us something. But it was like that's when I finally got to tell people. It was like, yes, oh my God, the world can continue. So,
yeah, I was like, I was very, very, I was like, I just got done with it, and I was like, it's exactly the same way. It was a very, very engrossing series. I'm liking it a lot so far.
Yeah, when I first read there's like the opening of the first book. This is a prologue kind of thing. I was like, God, this is really nicely written. For kind of an alien invasion type, story. I just love the way it was set up. And I was like, this is going to be good.
Yeah.
But see, that if I hadn't learned the lesson I learned from The Martian, because when they told me about The Martian, I thought it sounded stupid. It's like, oh God, I don't want to do this. But then I read the first line of the book. So yeah, but it's because of The Martian and that mistake I almost made passing it up that when they offered me read a little first before I say no. And yeah, so I'm very glad that I read a little and said yes.
Well, I'm going to jump ahead actually to that question really quick, and then Peter, you can go back to the one about recording.
Yep.
Tell us about The Martian, and it was great work, by the way. How was it to narrate such a hit book when it's going to be made into a movie, or it's already been made into a movie? Did you read it before or after that was made? The production was done
before the movie.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. No. Yeah. I read it 2.5 times.
Okay.
2 times. I forgot when it first came out. It was like 2013, I think, or 14. I'm not sure. The story goes, and obviously the guys at Podium will tell you better than I. But so I look more awesome than I really am. But I guess Andy didn't know how to make it into an ebook or something, so he just said, "I forget it," and then put it up on his website to scroll. It wasn't pages of the book; it was just nonstop text that you just scroll down and scroll down. It was for free, and bought and said, "We have got to pick up the rights to this," and they did. And then we recorded it. What happened with the print version there? But it came off his website, and I guess this is where I maybe have changed it to maybe 8 months. It was the only format of the book available was the audiobook. So that's where it started getting. And then and then he released it independently. And then Random House said, "Oh, we want that rights." And then it was optioned for a movie, and then that came the movie. So it was just the audiobook for a long time that gained a lot of its traction. But then once because audiobooks right now, it's really difficult for me to understand that it's not huge. It is huge, but it's not as massive as you think it is. But when people saw that, oh, The Martian, what is this book, this physical book? Oh, it went haywire. And but so I read it beforehand. I read the original release, and then I read the Random House version. And then they were telling me too. They said, I think it was Greg told me. He said, "Now, don't say anything, but there might be talks of making this into a movie with Matt Damon. Don't say anything." And this is like a year and a half before I think, I was told finally that yes, it is being made into a movie. So yeah, it was before that. And thank you, by the way. You said you gave me a compliment, and thank you for that.
No problem.
Yeah, that was a great book. That was a hard to put down kind of thing.
Yeah, it's so wonderfully written. I mean, you can't I got to give him all the credit, Andy Weir. You can't screw that book up. He just wrote it so perfectly that all you just have to do is just put your personality into it. And it worked that I happen to be, very snarky, and so is Mark Watney. So that works out very well.
Perfect.
It's like, oh, well, this I can just read.
So getting away from that and going back to recording, I mean, you work pretty much solely out of your home studio, correct?
Yeah. Yep.
Now, how do you? I mean, do you have a custom made audio booth? I mean, what's your setup there? What's your process when you're recording?
It's I'm in a 6x4 whisper room.
Okay.
I got a Neumann something. I can never remember the letters and numbers. It's a Neumann.
TLM 103 by chance?
No, it's like an NCM 105 or something.
One of the higher end ones. Okay.
No. Well, it's not. No, it's not the U87 or the whatever it is, U89. Those are the big ones. But no, this was a much lower cost one, and it looks really funky. It kind of looks like an old time mic that that would hang upside down.
I've got the TLM 103, which I know exactly what you're talking about.
Okay. Yeah, I love it. And, like I said, when I guess it was Blackstone said it sounded great, it was like, well, I got the right mic. I'm not changing anything, and I'm not moving any of the, the acoustic foam here in the booth. I'm not moving anything. But no, all I got in here, is a chair. And, right in front of me, I got my monitor, from the computer, which is outside the booth, actually. Obviously for noise reduction, it would pick it up in here. And then I have like one of the original iPads, the big guys, which is great because, and I used to read off of it, but now my eyes are getting even too bad for that. Now I just use it for like looking up words. Like it's like my massive dictionary right there. And I just read the script in the biggest letters possible right off the monitor. But then I use Pro Tools, I think in here, because my computer actually in here is a Mac Mini, just because I had one and I needed it. So it's an old computer, and I'm only running Pro Tools, I think 7 on this that I record into. But when I edit, I'm like Pro Tools 11 and like whatever the hell my Mac is out there. But yeah, for recording purposes, it's just almost the basics. I'm not going through anything. It's just straight mic into the interface, but then that's it. I don't have anything on it.
Right. Now, do you ever go into one of the studios to record, or you only work from home?
I have before. It's just easier now for people just to have me do it here because they've worked with me before and they know what it sounds like in here. So I guess they're comfortable with it. But yeah, I've gone to New York dozens of times. Brilliance had me out to Michigan at one point. Yeah, I guess recorded books. God, who else? I think I've been Audible a couple times. It's in Jersey, but yeah, really not a lot. I'd say honestly, 98% of what I do is from here, and I haven't gone in to a studio in a long time. So yeah, it's all here.
Well, I guess
because it also saves time because it'll take me to get to the city. It'll take me about 2 hours on the train. If I drive to Newark, it'll take me maybe over 2 hours with traffic and everything. So it just makes more sense to have me here at home in my booth recording for those 2 hours than sitting on a train or in traffic. So,
right. And that's, I guess, one of the wonderful things about the internet is we're not tied to a location anymore, and especially in this business.
I gotta tell you, everything is like coming together, and I really think it's just for me. It's I always wanted to work for myself so I could be my boss. All right, check. I just got so tired of going somewhere. I just wanted to wake up and go to work. Check. And it's all internet. I love the internet. It was made for me, because I just do it all here, send everything out. I don't have to go anywhere. I don't have to talk to anyone. I don't have to worry about, who's the weird guy in the office, because I know it's me. And I just, it's perfect. It's like my dream job. So the world came together for me and I appreciate it.
Any upcoming projects that you can talk about?
Oh God, I have like too many going. I overbooked myself. I have a tendency to do that. I don't want to say no. I don't want to upset, publishers, like, cause they're making an offer to me to do a book, and I'm so, touched that they thought of me for it. And it's like, oh God, yeah, I want to do it. I'm doing 5 other books that week, but yeah, I'll figure something out. So let me see what I can talk about now. But maybe, I don't know. It depends. When will this run? When do you think this will be on the air?
Oh, this will probably be out late next week, would be my guess.
Oh, okay. Then I can't tell you that one. Well, I'm doing a couple things. I mentioned before Blue Heron. That's my thing, and I'm working with Craig DeLuey again. He's the guy that the author of Suffer the Children. He wrote to me out of nowhere and said he's actually a big reason that I'm doing this, Blue Heron, because he's like, I have a lot of books that I independently publish. Would you be interested in making the audiobook? So I said, yeah, let's go through ACX, and this is what we do. So we did a naval thriller dive. It's a quick little book. It's like 4 hours, 4.5 hours. But it's like a submarine thriller. It's out in the Pacific against the Japanese fleet, and this is already out. This came out a couple weeks ago, and I just love it because I love the movie Das Boot, and this is so reminiscent of it. And it's going to be a 5-book series, which is nice. So the second one I'll be working on soon. So, but what I'm doing with him is a book that he co-wrote with Stephen Knight and Joe McKinney. It's called Retreat, and it's a zombie apocalypse movie. But it's not a book. It's it's not zombies, actually. It's a virus, and it's so twisted because they're not like zombies and all that kind of stuff. They're just these freaky people that go hysterical and just laugh at everything. So while they're dying, they're laughing. While they're killing you, they're laughing. I mean, it's just really twisted. But we're doing it as I said, would you guys want to do like a crazy, massive, like extreme production for this? And if you go to theretreatseries.com, you'll hear the first 4 chapters. And each the whole book is going to be completely outfitted with audio. You'll hear the guns in the background, the sound of the hospital hallway, pretty much it's like this huge audio is behind every word.
So full audio drama.
Yeah, we're trying it because we know it could be distracting. It could take away from the book, but they want to try it. I want to try it. So let's give it a shot. They have 3 of the books out right now. But this one it'll be out probably in March, but I know I can talk about that because we're all trying to drum up hype for it. So
nice.
That's my thing.
Are you doing all the audio mixing for that with all the effects and everything?
Oh yeah, that's all me. All the audio is me.
I'm sorry, because I know what a pain in the butt that is.
I've been working on an audio drama series for the past like 2 years, and Peter helped me mix one of the chapters, and it takes like a month and a half if everybody has their lines to you on time, all that stuff.
Well, that's the best part is that it goes back to my car commercial days. I'm the voice.
Yeah, you get to do it all.
Yeah, and then it'll take me like 2 hours to do a 7-minute chapter.
Yeah,
and after a while, towards that end of that second hour, it's like, oh God, I hate this book, and I hope it fails. But when you think about it, I love doing this. What I did with commercials, I loved building it and I like having fun with ears. You know what I mean? Like, how can I make this interesting to listen to? So it's fun. I like doing it. And it's it's tedious, but.
It's tedious, but the end product usually is worth it.
Yeah, cool.
I have a personal project that I do where it started out just strictly narration, then I started mixing in effects, and people love it. And I was really worried about what you're saying is it going to be too distracting? And well, it takes forever, but in the end, it makes it sound, it's much more engrossing, I guess, or
it draws you in. I can definitely attest. Yeah, because we're on chapter 11 of the audio series that I've been working on, and the followers that I've gotten have like doubled very quickly, and I can make a prediction here that there will come a time when you're mixing one of those and you'll be like, if I have to put one more effect in here, I'm going to punch somebody.
Oh yeah.
Oh my God. Oh my God.
Actually, there's another one I'm working on right now. It's called Swords for Hire. And it is, I'll make the comment about the rights holder and I we're just going back and forth today in emails about how the clock didn't sound like a clock enough. And he was like, I don't know, it doesn't sound enough. I'm like, well, here, let me, do this. I slowed down. I made every other, this is a tick and this is a talk, and I slowed it down. He's like, all right, slow it down about 33%. I'm like, God, we're talking about a clock that's only on there for 4 or 5 seconds. You know what I mean? But This one is going to be produced with audio too, and I had done the same thing with this one starting out. Made it all crazy, but he listened to it and he was like, just stop screwing around. I want you all this sound effects. And, well, like we've been talking about, I was very grateful for that because that just means I have to do minimal production.
Thank you.
But it's an awesome book. If I could tell you about it real quick, the author, Will Allen, I forgot, he died years ago. But his brother, this is his brother I've been working with. His brother, Will, wrote it. I can't remember, early 80s. And he was very influenced by The Princess Bride and Star Wars and, fun fantasy things. And this book is very much like The Princess Bride. It's actually, you know what it's like? I haven't watched it, but Gallivant. Have you seen Gallivant?
Nope.
Can't say I have.
It's like a musical comedy that's on NBC. It's far off fantastical castles, and there's the rescuer man and the small boy going to grow up, and like there's all this, it's really, and it's hysterical is the thing. It's such dry humor. But Will, when he was writing it, he cancer, and he actually died. Forgot how long after it was early in the 80s. I think he only had one draft of it, and he printed it up, gave it to his family, and said, here's, my gift. And then I guess like a couple weeks or a couple months later, he died. Then his brother took the reins and put it out as a book. And this was years ago. This was in the 80s, maybe early 90s. I can't exactly remember. Forgive me. But then he heard The Martian and he contacted me through ACX and he said, hey, I got this book. Would you want to do it? And I read a little bit of it and I was like, yes, I do. And again, it's a little short one, might be 3.5 hours long, but it is so funny and fresh. And it's sad because this is the only book that Will Allen will have written. And he could have been huge. I think he would have been so well loved. But it's a pleasure to be working on. It's an honor to be working on it. And I really think a lot of people are going to love it. It's just so funny. You'll see. It's called Swords for Hire.
Swords for Hire.
Yeah,
keep an eye out for that. Definitely.
Yeah.
But I do have others in the works, for Tantor and Hybrid, which are the same people, and Blackstone and Brilliance, and I've got a lot of stuff going.
That brings me to another point. I was looking at how many books you've done since I think 2011. That's a ridiculous amount of work, and it sounds like you've got a lot of pokers in the fire at once. But I mean, how much time do you spend a day in your studio? Actually narrating.
Half hour, 45. No, I'm just
shut up.
It's whatever I feel like. No. Well, it all depends. It's really, it's kind of based around, drop off and pick up of my kids. Probably, I'll say maybe 4.5, 5 hours. It doesn't sound like a lot, but I work like a horse in that time. And by the end of it, I don't do any of that stuff that people talk about, like with taking care of your voice and doing exercise. I don't do that stuff. So my voice gets pretty tired by the end of it. And it shows, or you can hear it. And so I got to give up for that day and then keep going the next day. But yeah, about 4.5, 5 hours a day. And sometimes it flies. Sometimes it takes forever.
Yep, I know that feeling.
Mm-hmm.
Now, is that my general rule of thumb is about for every 6 hours of narration it equals about 1 hour of finished product. You're kind of a general rule of thumb. Is that kind of what you find as well?
No, I'm in about a 2-to-1 right now. So 2 hours is an hour. But it depends. I could probably bump that up to 2.5, 3 hours.
I should say that that's also including all the post editing work front. I guess.
Oh no.
Actually, narrating the actual narration point is probably 2 to 3 hours, probably realistically.
Yes, yeah. I do more of that, more just narration. So
right.
I've never actually figured it out with narration and then production. Like I just base it on narration, my time in there, and then when I do the post, I don't even think about it. If I'm just doing production during a day, it'll probably be longer than that, 6-7 hours. Just because I'm there, and actually time flies more doing that than narrating sometimes. But I've never thought about that. So maybe I'll look into doing that.
All right. So curious about the industry. I mean, you kind of got in an interesting way, and like I said, a lot of people come in through the acting route. And you kind of did that as well. But I mean, what's your experience been with the industry? You said like everybody's nice. I mean, do you have any personal experiences or stories? Tips or words of wisdom you can give to people who are trying to do this as well?
Well, I will give tips and all that kind of stuff to people who I wouldn't be in competition with. So, ladies, no. What I was told to do, I worked everything just kind of worked out nicely. Do things like Johnny Heller teaches classes a lot. Scott Brick and Pat Fraley come around every so often. I'm on the East Coast, so I mean, if people out on the left coast there, they do a lot of stuff out there in LA as well. Go to those things. Paul Rubin does a lot. Go to those things. Not obviously, you learn tons. I mean, that's what it's for. But the people that you're working with at those are people who are actually already in business. When I took it was Pat and Scott's, and that's what I did first. This was after like I realized I wanted to be a narrator. I was like, hey, look it up online. How to be a narrator? And there was this thing coming along called the $1 Billion Read, and that was Scott and Pat. And I was like, oh, of course, this is probably already passed, but it didn't. It was the next week, and ordinarily I miss things like that, so I took it as another sign. But yeah, I went there and I met those two, and Zane Birdwell, who works at John Marshall Media. He was there as the engineer. Katie Kelgren came in for the second day for a couple hours, worked with us. But I mean, it's I don't want to make it sound like it's a who you know kind of thing, but it is. I mean, it helps. That's how you get the introductions. But it's a very open networking kind of industry. So go to those things. Oh, go to APAC.
Yep.
Audio Publisher Association's convention. Right? Yeah.
Yep. David Morantz mentioned that as well.
That's why they just call it APAC.
I'm not sure where they're holding it this year.
Chicago.
Is it Chicago?
Yeah,
okay.
That's right.
Yeah, they're it's smart because the BEA, the book, whatever it is, the book exhibition, book exposition, whatever.
That word, I got
it. The BEA.
Get it.
That's where that's the big book one that they always had at the Javits Center. They're moving it to Chicago, so APAC's going with it, which makes the ultimate sense. You don't want to keep these two things separate, especially audiobooks when you want it to get much bigger. Yeah, but it was usually in New York, which is for me, but now it's going to Chicago, and then who knows, maybe out to LA sometime. But go to it because that's where you meet everybody, and it's kind of fun because it's we get starstruck a little. I remember the first time, like, because Bronson Pinchot was at the Audies that year, and I went just as just to see them. I was like, oh my God, it's Bronson Pinchot is there. So you get a little starstruck, and but I had already known Scott, so that was nice because I met him in the class, and he was like, oh, this is Bob, and I was like, oh my God, hi, how are you? But once you realize these are all people, just regular people who read books and make a living. It comes down to everyone being nice. I'm telling you, everyone is accessible. So as long as you go to the things where you meet other narrators, you're golden. Because I haven't met one that's like, don't email me. I don't have time for this. No, everyone has time for you. You ask it. Simon Vance gets back to you. All these like narrator royalty. They'll get back to you. They'll talk to you. They'll help you. They'll recommend. I just heard a guy. I just heard him. There was somebody who contacted me and said, hey, I was wondering if you could do my next book. And I had this guy do one of them. And he sent me a sample. I listened to it. I said, I'd stick with this guy for another book. Stay with him. I've never heard him before. He only had like 5 or 6 books up on Audible. But I was like, I don't know this guy, but I have to tell people about him. So I wrote to people at Blackstone and Podium and Brilliance. I said, I don't know who this guy is. Please take a second to listen to his voice. I think he'd be awesome for you. So, those things happen. It's just, we look to help other people out. So yeah, if you just go where the narrators are, you're going to learn some pretty interesting things. But also, you got to be your own Simon Cowell. You got to be truthful with yourself. Can you do this? One of the you know what? It's annoying. One of the most annoying things people say is, "Hey, you know, my friend told me I have a good voice. You think I should narrate?" It's like, well, you know, my brother told me that I can carve a turkey well at Thanksgiving. Should I be a surgeon? You know, it's like you gotta. Can you do? I know I couldn't be a surgeon. I wouldn't attempt it. Can you be a narrator just because your friend thinks that you have a good voice? Can you read? Can you interpret? Can you act? Can you? There's a lot that goes behind it. So you got to be honest with yourself. Can't not just I love doing it, but if you can say I'm good at it, then do it. You know what I mean? Be honest. And have a thick skin too, because you do get told no. Sometimes you don't get cast. And if you're going to tell yourself maybe I shouldn't be doing this, you got to be ready for it, and it's okay. You know, it's fine, but just be as open and honest as possible with yourself, and you'll be good to go.
I mean, you kind of hit it on the head because a lot of people who don't listen to audiobooks, they think an audiobook is someone reading the book, and that's a minor part of it. That's almost the smallest part. You got to be able to act, and you got to be able to express yourself and do different voices and stuff to really make it come out.
Yeah. One of another thing that I send people to is Sean Pratt did this wonderful thing called on YouTube called "So You Want to Be an Audiobook Narrator." Watch that. It's probably like 5 minutes long, but he takes you through like the process, and he says, do this, and do this. Now, do it every day for the next, I forgot what he said, 2 weeks or something like that. And then talk to me, and then we'll take it from there. But he sets it up brilliantly. He tells you what it's like. He's like, go into a closet, turn off all the lights, have one light in front of you with a book and, a microphone, something to act as the microphone. And if you can do that for 4 hours a day, going back, if you make a mistake, start again, go back. If you can do all this for 2 weeks, then you're serious. So I always point them to that little video that he made. I think it's perfect as far as what you're talking about, stamina and just the ability to connect with everything, for a long period of time.
Definitely with the stamina. I mean, there's been many a script that I've had to read for whatever, and you get like halfway through the script and it's been 3 hours and you're just like, my God, I need to go like do something else. I just need to walk away for a second. It's ridiculous. But if you're into
I've fallen asleep during reading. I'm not kidding. I've literally fallen asleep. I'm like, I don't know what I just said. And then I'll just put my head back and rest for a minute. And then I'll try and start reading again. I'm like, I can't do this. So I have to get now I have this small booth. So sometimes I'm thinking, am I breathing in too much of my own carbon dioxide or whatever? I don't know. And I'm just knocking myself out. But I'll go out. I just go out and I turn on the music. I just start cleaning up a little bit, or I go and, walk down the hall and start the laundry. You know what I mean? Other things just to get me back awake.
Yeah.
But I've done it. I've literally fallen asleep. So it's important. Stamina is important, and sometimes so is the material.
Yeah, absolutely. Go ahead, Pete.
Well, the funniest thing is because I've been doing a independent project for, wow, God, how long have I been doing that? It's over 500,000 words, and I've been doing that for quite a while. And that's basically where I took that, and that's where I'm going to cut my chops. This is where I'm going to learn how to record and how to edit. And but I got into ACX, so I picked something really simple and short first, which was a book on C# programming. And you talk about a dry read. Oh my God. And trying to talk code is like I had to email the author and say, okay, look, I can't really narrate these chunks of code samples. We're going to have to make this very clear. This is a companion to the physical book. But the funny thing is, I got a 3-book series out for young readers, and a couple other books. That stupid 1 hour long book has made me more money than anything else.
Is that right?
Yeah.
That's the way it works, man.
Yeah.
I did the same thing with an SQL book for ACX, and oh my God, I can't tell you how many days it took me, because especially when they start doing the coding and stuff like that, and you have to come up with words for symbols that you don't even know what they mean.
Yeah.
I've never spoken so long about something I have no idea what I'm talking about.
I did something called environmental psychology. It's a Canadian textbook. I promise you, no one has bought that. I just remember being like, well, and it also has all those things, like, see figure 1.8 for, like, well, do I read that here? Do I what?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I don't know what kind of order that ended up being.
You were early talking about the industry and everything like that. Speaking of the industry, do you have a SAG membership?
Oh yeah, I'm SAG after. Yep.
Do you like it? I mean, is it helpful? I tried messing around with it, because when I lived in LA, I did some background work and started kind of working towards that, and then lost track of what I was doing and ended up in Seattle. So I can't even explain that. But either way, what are the benefits?
We have I don't know how it is out in LA. I don't know if they're the
I think
same
it's
people.
pretty much the same. SAG is the same everywhere.
No. I mean, I'm talking about, there's like a new audiobook division that's in there. We have 3 outstanding representatives: Rich Larkin, Steve Sadawi, and the lovely Jane Love.
Mm-hmm.
They're just nonstop workaholics for narrators. In terms of in terms of everything, but they get us across the board health and retirement benefits, standard rate. I mean, they obviously, like any union, they've worked it all out for us, but they go to bat for us any chance you get, and it actually makes it that much easier to work with. Signatories, everything is understood. But I like the fact that I was never a SAG member. I was an AFTRA member,
Mm-hmm.
and I wasn't really involved in it. This was years ago, and so I said, "Well, let me just knock down the FICOR. That's basically, you get all the benefits, but don't have to be involved." I mean, that's the really basic way of putting it. There's a lot more involved in it,
Right.
but you had to kind of be reviewed by AFTRA if you were to get back into AFTRA. And you have to write like a letter and explain why you did what you did in the first place. And luckily, I was taken back. And then that's a little bit later is when the merger happened with SAG after, and I kind of got grandfathered in, which is ironic, because I basically gave up on acting, because I was like, well, stupid that you need to have your SAG card to get into a movie, but to get into a movie, or it's like the catch-22, that's just stupid. I don't want to do it. So so now I'm part of the union. I'm very proud of it, and
Awesome.
I mean, just from my own experience with ACX, is like, if you want to play with the big boys, you got to be a SAG member, you got to be a union member, and but looking at the process to get in, and we talked to David Morantz about this. It's like, to get the role, you have to be a SAG member, but to be a SAG member, you have to have the role.
Yes. Yeah.
Yep.
Thank you for saying that. That's what I was trying to say, but I was like, wait a minute, I'm saying the same thing 2 different ways. Anyway, catch-22. That's what I always fall back. I was going to make a comment before I decided to be Mr. Funny. How was it? I don't know. Actually, I don't know what it takes to get into it now. I remember with AFTRA, when I got into it, you just went down and you paid money and you're a member. And then the merger happened, and woohoo, now I'm in it. So I don't know what's involved now, actually. But here's the thing too. I don't need the health. I don't need the health benefits, because my wife has an excellent health benefits. She's a social worker in a public school system, so she's got awesome health coverage. But many of the other narrators, they need it. So they've all helped me out, getting me where I am. Whether it's talking to them, them recommending someone to me listening to them, and stealing their, their delivery or whatever it was. We've all helped each other out. So that's part of the reason I'm, still in the union. That's a big staying point for me, is that me doing this gets benefits contributed to other people who need them. So that's a big part for me.
Right on. I was just looking up some of the stuff that it takes to get into SAG-AFTRA, and it pretty much sounds like the catch-22 that it always has been.
Really?
Yeah. I mean, I know that because I was doing live acting work down there for the background stuff, and they basically told me that you need 3 vouchers, and then you'd end up paying like $1,500 to, get the license or whatever you get. It was just apparently now the national initiation fee is $3,000.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Yep.
Well, I am very happy I did what I did.
Yes, I would be too.
Wow. Oh, geez, no, I didn't know all that. So,
Yeah.
well, I still say it's worth it. I still say it's worth it.
Agreed.
Of course, I can say it's worth it. I'm in.
Of course you can.
When I was talking to another voice actor, Peter New, he said, well, the reason it's that way is to keep people who aren't serious out of the business, I guess. Like they deliberately make it hard for that reason. And I can understand that, but boy, it really is, you got to commit a lot of time and money and really want it to get it. And then that opens the doors, I guess.
Yeah. Well, think about it. If you want it, work for it.
Yeah.
Prove
true.
it.
Yep.
Prove it to the people you're going to be working with. They want to know they're working with, the real deal.
Right.
But with audiobooks, actually, non-union talent are hired all the time.
Oh, really?
We actually, the audiobook union portion of SAG just negotiated a thing with a publisher that says this is what we want for base rate, but it goes for non-union members too. So it's almost an incentive to be like, look, we're looking out for all of you too. So maybe you want to consider, joining us, look out for each other. But that's what I liked about it, is that we are looking out for non-union people as well, because we know they're getting hired. We're not dumb. I was, I got hired. I did non-union jobs, even though I was a union member. I wasn't aware of it at the time. And I told everybody, I was like, I'm sorry, I had no idea, but non-union folks are all over the place, and they make really good money because they can make their own rates and all this. But at the same time, the publishers know that, A-listers or whatever, they know what they're going to pay you, and they know the kind of chops they're going to get from you and for how much. So it's enticing to them too.
Right. Now, are you speaking hiring non-union folks? Are you talking about the big audiobook producers like Brilliance and B and all those guys, or just like ACX? 'Cause anybody can do it on ACX, obviously.
Oh yeah. No, it's pretty much anyone can do it.
Huh. Awesome.
I could be very wrong, but yeah, non-union people are getting hired to do things. There's no question about it. And I'm not saying it's all the publishers, let's be clear. But
right.
Yeah, I know non-union people are working all the time. I know it's not up to me. It's up to the publisher. That's who they want to cast. That's who they want to do it. That's up to them.
Well, I guess it's kind of a bit of a gray area too. I guess you wouldn't really think of audiobooks being as part of the whole acting thing to begin with, but I guess it really is. But
that's why it's starting to get what do you want to say? I forgot. Get its wheels under it. It's really starting to get movement. And it's nowhere near as big as on camera or whatever, or even regular voiceovers, commercials and promos and all that stuff.
Right.
But it's got to start somewhere, and it's small right now, but it'll get there.
Yeah, Peter and I were trying to actually put together something, an audio thing where we take people's stories. We're going to kind of match it up and do audio drama productions of people's books too, full cast, sound effects, all that kind of stuff. Try and jump into the market that way.
Cool. Yeah, I did one with, it was called the Starling Project.
Mm-hmm.
What the hell was his name? I can't think of his name. Oh God, what's his name?
Just go through the alphabet.
What's that?
I know,
I do that too, and I'm going through it right now. I know there's an A in there. What the hell is his name? Oh my God, I can't. The guy, he was in the one I know him most from is from Raiders of the Lost Ark. He's like, throw me the gun, I'll throw you the whip. Throw me the idol, I'll throw you the whip. Alfred Alfred Molina. Thank you. He was, oh my God, I can't believe I forgot his name. But Bill DeFries kind of ran the whole thing for his company, and we all went up to Maine and did this whole big production. It was like, I don't know, 15, 20 people. I don't know. But it was a couple of the people, it was me and Peter Burkrot and Bill DeFries and Jay Piscopo, and God, there's just so many others. I can't remember their names. I think Derek Perkins was on that. Is that right?
Nice.
Was Derek Perkins on it? You got to think about that.
I was gonna say,
No, he
let
wasn't.
me check my notes.
No, he wasn't. No, right. There was another Brit on there that reminded me of Derek. But oh yeah, it was awesome. It was so much fun. Working off other people. You're doing like a live stage reading, and it's so much fun.
Absolutely agree. I love that kind of stuff. What part of Maine did you do that in?
What was it? Portsmouth.
That's New Hampshire.
Portsmouth?
Portland.
Sorry, yeah.
Yeah, that's where I grew up. Grew up in that town.
Port.
Port. Yeah, the port place. Yeah, right there with you.
Portland, yes.
Yep. I grew up in that.
Actually, it was nice. It was on our way up to my grandfather was born in Prince Edward Island, Canada.
Nice.
So, and he had this little plot of land up there that's still in the family. So we go up there. I used to go up every summer as a kid. And now that, I've got my own family, we started going back. And so we went up there to Portland for 5 days, I guess. And then I worked all the time, and my wife and the two girls came along, and they hung out at the beach or did whatever. And then we just continued on our way. So, because we always stopped in Bangor on the way up when I went with my family as a kid. But so this was a little less than halfway, but yeah.
Bangor. Up there in Bangor, Maine.
Bangor. Yes.
Yeah.
Well, that's all we have for this episode of The Vocal Booth. Again, our guest was RC Bray, and thank you very much for joining us and answering all our questions.
No, thank you guys for asking them, so I had something to answer.
It was a lot of fun. Thank you very much.
No, guys, thank you I really do appreciate it. That was a lot of fun.
It was.